The disappearance of Maura Murray, the crash, the road, and the vanishing. On the evening of February 9th, 2004, a single car sat angled into a snowbank along Route 112 in Haverhill, New Hampshire. The road was dark, rural, quiet in a way that swallows sound. Snow lined the edges of the pavement in uneven mounds from previous storms. The Saturn sedan had struck a tree. Its front end was damaged, the windshield cracked, but there was no one inside. Less than 10 minutes earlier, witnesses had seen a young woman standing near the vehicle. She appeared shaken, but not visibly injured. She declined help, and then she vanished. Her name was Maura Murray. She was 21 years old, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, an athlete, quiet, disciplined, described by many as private. In the days before her disappearance, there had been signs of strain, but nothing that pointed clearly toward what would happen on that snowy road. On February 5th, 4 days before the crash, Maura had broken down at work. She worked as a security guard on campus. During her shift, she reportedly received a phone call. After the call, she became visibly upset. When asked what was wrong, she reportedly said only, "My sister." There were no immediate details beyond that. The next day, Maura searched online for directions to northern New England, Vermont, New Hampshire. She looked at lodging options, vacation rentals. She emailed professors saying she would be absent for a week due to a death in the family. There was no death in the family. She packed clothing, withdrew nearly all of the money from her bank account, approximately $280, purchased alcohol from a liquor store, Bailey's Irish Cream, vodka, Kahlua. She left campus that afternoon in her black Saturn. No one has confirmed speaking to her after she left. By early evening, her car was traveling north through New Hampshire. The weather was cold, roads partially icy. At approximately 7:27 p.m., a neighbor named Butch Atwood heard a loud thump outside his home along Route 112. He looked out and saw a car against a snowbank. He drove his school bus, he was a local bus driver, to the scene. Maura was standing beside the vehicle. He later described her as appearing cold but composed. She told him she had already called roadside assistance. He did not see her using a phone. Cell service in that area was unreliable. He offered to call police. She declined. He insisted he would call anyway. He returned to his house and contacted authorities. By approximately 7:46 p.m., the first police officer arrived. The car was empty. The airbags had deployed. The interior contained personal belongings, some alcohol containers, her cell phone, her wallet. Her keys were not inside. There were no footprints leading clearly away from the scene. Snow covered much of the surrounding area, but the terrain was uneven, wooded. If someone had walked into the forest, tracking would have been difficult. The window between Atwood leaving her and police arrival was small, roughly 10 minutes. In that window, Maura Murray disappeared. No confirmed sighting of her has been established after that point. Investigators initially treated it as a possible DUI walkaway. Perhaps she feared getting into trouble for alcohol in the vehicle. Perhaps she wandered into the woods and succumbed to exposure. Search teams deployed dogs within days. They tracked her scent briefly along the road eastbound for about 100 yards. Then the scent stopped abruptly. Some interpret that as entering another vehicle. Others argue scent tracking in winter conditions is unreliable. The Saturn itself contained items that raised questions. printed MapQuest directions to Burlington, Vermont, a rag stuffed in the tailpipe, a trick her father had reportedly suggested to reduce smoke from a mechanical issue. Her bank account was empty. Her dorm room was packed up as if she did not intend to return immediately. The emotional strain in the days before her disappearance has been analyzed repeatedly. There had been a minor car accident days earlier in Massachusetts. She had reportedly been disciplined at West Point years before for shoplifting and credit card misuse. But none of these incidents directly forecasted disappearance. The more investigators examined her last known movements, the more fragmented the picture became. Why drive north alone? Why withdraw nearly all available cash? Why tell professors about a false death? Why bring alcohol? Why refuse assistance from a neighbor in a rural area? Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the road itself becomes part of the mystery. Route 112 is narrow, curving, surrounded by dense forest. At night, headlights illuminate only a small stretch ahead. If someone intended to disappear, it is a place where darkness assists. If someone intended harm, it is a place where isolation protects. The absence of footprints remains debated. Search crews combed nearby woods extensively in the days following. Helicopters scanned from above. Volunteers walked grid patterns. No clothing, no remains, no trace. Some theorize she accepted a ride from a passing motorist. Others believe she ran into the woods to avoid police and became disoriented. Some believe she staged the crash intentionally. Others reject that entirely. The case has generated podcasts, documentaries, online forums dissecting every minute detail. But strip away speculation, and what remains are simple facts. A car crash at 7:27 p.m., a witness conversation, a refusal of help, police arrival 10 minutes later, an empty vehicle, and snow-absorbing sound. The silence after 7:46 p.m. is what defines this case, because silence creates space, and space invites theory. But no theory has replaced evidence. Maura Murray remains officially missing. Years have passed. The road remains. The snow returns each winter. And the question lingers in the cold air. Where did she go in those 10 minutes? In the days after February 9th, 2004, the disappearance of Maura Murray did not immediately become national news. It began as a local missing person case in rural New Hampshire. A college student who crashed her car, possibly fled the scene, possibly wandered into the woods, possibly waiting to resurface. But she did not resurface. Within 48 hours, search operations intensified. New Hampshire Fish and Game officers combed the woods surrounding Route 112. Tracking dogs were brought in. One bloodhound, purportedly given a glove belonging to Maura to establish scent, followed a trail eastbound along the road. The dog tracked approximately 100 yards, then stopped abruptly. The scent did not continue into the forest. It did not circle back. It simply ended on the pavement. That detail has fueled debate for 2 decades. Some investigators interpret it to mean she entered another vehicle, a passing car that picked her up, voluntarily or otherwise. Others caution that winter conditions, snowbanks, vehicle exhaust, and road traffic can distort scent tracking. Still, the abrupt ending is one of the most unsettling pieces of the puzzle. If she ran into the woods immediately, why was no scent trail found leading inward? If she walked down the road, why was she not seen by passing drivers?
Police canvassed the area extensively, but Route 112 at that hour is quiet, sparse traffic, long stretches of darkness between homes. The nearest houses were separated by yards of snow and trees. If someone stopped briefly, no one else may have witnessed it. Maura's father, Fred Murray, traveled north almost immediately after learning of the crash. He had spoken to Maura days earlier about the Saturn's mechanical problems. The rag in the tailpipe, later discovered at the scene, was purportedly a temporary measure he had suggested to reduce visible exhaust smoke. Fred arrived determined to search. He retraced the crash site repeatedly. He walked the roadside himself. He pushed for expanded search operations. In the meantime, investigators examined Maura's activities in the days before she left campus. On February 7th, she attended a dorm party. There was alcohol. Later that night, she crashed her father's car in Hadley, Massachusetts. The accident caused damage, but no serious injuries. Police were involved. Insurance was notified. The incident added stress. Then, on February 9th, she withdrew nearly all the money from her account, approximately $280, leaving only a few dollars behind. She purchased alcohol, Bailey's, vodka, Kahlua. She emailed her professors, stating there had been a death in the family and she would be gone for a week. There was no death. She also emailed her employer. Then she left. These actions suggest planning, but planning what? A private retreat? A short escape from stress? A longer disappearance? There was no suicide note, no final message, no public declaration. Her dorm room appeared partially packed, some posters removed from walls, textbooks boxed. Investigators debated whether this indicated intention to transfer schools or simply organization. Nothing definitive emerged. The emotional moment at her campus job days earlier remains ambiguous. After receiving a phone call, she reportedly became distressed. When asked what was wrong, she said only, "My sister." Her sister, Kathleen, had struggled with alcoholism at times. Some speculate that the call involved family stress, but no evidence has publicly confirmed the content of that conversation. The MapQuest directions found in her car led toward Burlington, Vermont, but she crashed 2 hours south of that location. Was she rerouting, lost, or was her intended destination somewhere else entirely? The stretch of Route 112 where the crash occurred is not a main highway. It is rural, winding, dark even during daylight in winter months. If she had intended to disappear voluntarily, choosing such an isolated road is curious, because while it offers seclusion, it also limits access to help. One theory suggests she panicked after crashing. Perhaps she had been drinking. Perhaps she feared legal trouble. She declined assistance from Butch Atwood. She may have fled into the woods to avoid police. If so, hypothermia is a possibility. February temperatures in that region can drop quickly after sunset, but extensive searches did not recover remains in the immediate area. Years later, further ground searches also failed to uncover definitive evidence. Another theory proposes that she accepted a ride from a passing motorist. If the scent trail ended on the road, it supports that possibility. But if she entered a vehicle voluntarily, who was driving? No confirmed witness has come forward identifying such a pickup. No known surveillance footage exists from that rural stretch in 2004. This was pre-smartphone era. No GPS tracking, no constant digital trace. Once she stepped away from that car, she stepped into absence. The Saturn itself revealed little beyond what was already known. Airbags deployed, windshield cracked, personal belongings inside. Her phone was not used after the crash. Call records show no outgoing or incoming calls in that final window. Her voicemail was not checked. There was no confirmed final text. Investigators have never publicly identified a suspect in her disappearance. No one has been charged. No body has been found. The silence following 7:46 p.m. that night has now lasted decades. Late at night, when this story unfolds slowly, the fear lies in transition, a moment between witness departure and police arrival. 10 minutes, enough time to walk, enough time to hide, enough time to enter another vehicle, enough time to vanish. The snow that night likely preserved some footprints temporarily, but snow also shifts. Plows pass, wind covers impressions, and the longer a search is delayed, the more nature reclaims. Over time, Maura Murray's disappearance became one of the most dissected missing person cases in America. Online forums built timelines down to the minute. Podcasts interviewed witnesses. Armchair investigators proposed elaborate theories. But evidence has remained static. A crash, a witness conversation, a refusal of help, an empty car, and a scent trail that ends. As weeks passed after the disappearance of Maura Murray, the case began shifting from active search to enduring mystery.
The immediate area around Route 112 had been combed. Helicopters scanned from above. Ground teams walked grid patterns. Dogs traced and retraced scent lines. Nothing conclusive was found. When searches expand without results, focus often turns inward toward the person who vanished. Investigators reviewed Maura's academic history. She had attended West Point before transferring to the University of Massachusetts Amherst. At West Point, she had been disciplined for shoplifting cosmetics from a store. There had also been a credit card misuse incident involving fraudulent charges for pizza. Neither offense suggested violent behavior, but they did suggest stress, impulsivity, or coping issues during certain periods. Friends described her as athletic, competitive, sometimes private. She ran cross-country. She was physically strong, accustomed to endurance. Some believe that if she entered the woods, she may have been capable of traveling farther than expected. But winter terrain changes capability quickly. Snowbanks along Route 112 were high, the forest beyond them uneven and dense. A fall, an injury, or simple disorientation in darkness could have altered everything. Her relationship at the time also drew scrutiny. She had been dating a fellow student. Reports indicate tension in the days leading up to her departure. Phone records show she had called her boyfriend multiple times shortly before leaving campus, but did not speak to him directly. Her emotional breakdown at work days earlier, the moment when she reportedly said only, "my sister," remains a pivot point. Was she overwhelmed by family issues, romantic stress, academic pressure? The email claiming a death in the family suggests intentional misdirection. It was not an impulsive departure. She created space, a week of absence. That suggests planning. But planning for what duration? Short escape or permanent disappearance? Her father has consistently maintained that she would not voluntarily disappear without contacting family. He believes foul play is likely. He has pushed for continued investigation for years. Others argue that voluntary disappearance cannot be ruled out. But if she intended to disappear permanently, why crash the car?
Why withdraw only $280? Why leave personal belongings behind? Why no confirmed financial activity after? The 10-minute window remains the tightest focus. Between 7:36 p.m., when Butch Atwood last saw her, and 7:46 p.m., when police arrived, something happened. Possibility 1, she fled into the woods and succumbed to exposure. Counterpoint, extensive searches did not uncover remains nearby. Possibility 2, she accepted a ride from a passerby voluntarily. Counterpoint, no credible driver has come forward. Possibility 3, she was forced into a vehicle. Counterpoint, no signs of struggle at the roadside were documented. Possibility 4, she staged the crash to begin a new life. Counterpoint, no evidence of new identity, no bank activity, no confirmed sighting in 2 decades. The scent dog trail ending on the pavement remains central. If accurate, it supports vehicle involvement. But scent tracking is not infallible. Weather, road salt, and passing cars distort trails. The alcohol in her vehicle adds another layer. Open containers were reportedly found. If she had been drinking, fear of DUI consequences may have influenced her decision to leave before police arrived. Panic can distort judgment. In rural darkness, panic can escalate quickly. But panic usually leads to mistakes that leave evidence. Here, there is almost none. In the years following, reported sightings surfaced sporadically. A young woman matching her description in Quebec, another in Florida. None confirmed. The passage of time complicates identification. Faces change, memories fade. Digital footprints are sparse from 2004. In modern cases, cell phone pings, GPS data, and security cameras create layered maps. In 2004, much of that infrastructure did not exist. The road itself offers limited surveillance. Nearby homes were few. Most did not have cameras. Traffic at that hour was light. A vehicle could stop briefly without drawing attention. If she entered another vehicle willingly, it may have felt like a temporary solution. If she entered unwillingly, the isolation favored the perpetrator.
The case's persistence stems from this balance between ordinary and extraordinary. Car accidents happen. Young adults take spontaneous trips. People panic after crashes. But people do not usually vanish entirely in 10 minutes. Late at night, when this story is told slowly, the focus narrows to that roadside conversation. A bus driver offering help. A young woman declining. Snow crunching under boots. Breath visible in cold air. Headlights fading. Then quiet. When police arrived, the scene was static. The car, the snowbank, dark woods beyond. No footprints obvious. No sign of a second vehicle confirmed. Just stillness. Some investigators believe she may have walked east along Route 112 and been picked up beyond the initial search zone. If so, the abduction point may not align exactly with the crash location. Others maintain she likely entered the woods within minutes and that terrain and time concealed remains. Private landowners have allowed searches repeatedly over the years. Ground-penetrating radar has been used. Cadaver dogs deployed again. Still, nothing definitive. The house nearest the crash was searched. So were outbuildings and surrounding acres. Each search revives hope. Each search concludes without resolution. The Maura Murray case sits in a unique space between crime and mystery. There is no confirmed homicide, no confirmed suicide, no confirmed voluntary disappearance,
only a moment of transition in darkness. In the years since February 9, 2004, the stretch of Route 112 where Maura Murray crashed her car has changed very little. The road still curves through forest. Snow still piles along the shoulders in winter. Headlights still cut through darkness the same way they did that night. Drivers pass without realizing they are moving through one of the most enduring disappearance sites in modern American history. For Maura's family, time has not softened the questions. It has sharpened them. Her father has returned to the crash site repeatedly over the years. He has organized searches, met with investigators, pressed for expanded efforts. The absence of physical evidence has forced the case into speculation, but speculation is not proof. The official status remains simple. Maura Murray is missing. No confirmed body, no confirmed suspect, no confirmed sighting after 7:36 p.m. The theories have multiplied over 2 decades. Some believe she fled intentionally, overwhelmed by academic pressure, relationship strain, and personal setbacks. They argue that the packed dorm room, the withdrawal of cash, and the fabricated family death email suggest escape planning. But long-term voluntary disappearance leaves traces: employment, identification, financial activity, digital footprint. There is no credible evidence she built a new life elsewhere. Others believe she ran into the woods in panic and succumbed to exposure. Winter in northern New Hampshire can be unforgiving. Temperatures drop quickly after sunset. Hypothermia can set in within hours. But search teams covered the immediate area thoroughly within days. Cadaver dogs were deployed. Ground searches extended beyond the roadside. No clothing, no remains, no definitive trace. The scent dog tracking east along the pavement remains one of the most debated pieces of the case. If accurate, it suggests she stayed on the road briefly, and if the scent truly ended abruptly, it suggests vehicle involvement. But without eyewitness confirmation, it remains interpretation. A passing motorist theory persists. Perhaps someone stopped. Perhaps she entered willingly, seeking warmth or transport. Perhaps that decision sealed her fate. If so, the anonymity of a dark rural highway protected the person responsible. In 2004, there were no widespread dash cams, no automatic license plate readers, no smartphone location tracking. The technology gap matters. The world she disappeared into was less digitally recorded. The silence is not just physical, it is technological. Another possibility is accidental concealment. If she wandered further from the road than initial searches anticipated, natural elements may have hidden remains. Dense forest swallows objects quickly. Animals scatter evidence. Seasonal growth obscures the ground. But over 20 years, repeated searches have yielded nothing conclusive. What makes this case uniquely haunting is not violence confirmed, it is uncertainty sustained. There is no courtroom drama here, no confession tape, no suspect sitting in custody, just a timeline that narrows to 10 minutes. 7:36 p.m., witness leaves a roadside. 7:46 p.m., police arrive. In between, absence. Late at night, when this story settles into quiet, the focus returns to that conversation. A bus driver offering help, a young woman declining, snow reflecting headlights, cold air filling lungs. The sense that she did not want police involvement. Was that embarrassment, fear, desire to avoid consequences, or something else entirely? The case has inspired documentaries, podcasts, message boards, and amateur investigations. It has drawn thousands into analysis of weather patterns, map coordinates, and family interviews. But the core remains unchanged. A crashed car, a rural road, a missing person, and decades of unanswered questions. The most unsettling element may be this: there was no scream reported, no struggle witnessed, no visible urgency in her demeanor according to the last witness. She was described as calm, shaken but calm. If she entered another vehicle, it may not have felt like danger in that moment. If she walked into the woods, it may have felt transitory. If she intended to disappear voluntarily, it may have felt controlled. But from the outside looking in, control vanished quickly. The Maura Murray case represents the fragility of transition, the space between one decision and its consequence, between declining help and losing contact, between headlights fading and silence expanding. In crime storytelling, there are often definitive endpoints: arrest, conviction, confession. Here, there is none, just an unresolved stretch of highway, snow absorbing footprints, wind erasing evidence, and a young woman who stepped away from her car and was never seen again. Thank you for listening.